Welcome to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's presentation about the proposed cleanup plan for the Sandoval Zinc Superfund site. The site is located in Sandoval, Illinois. Because of current COVID-19 restrictions, U.S. EPA changed the in-person proposed plan public meeting to a video presentation with the same information we would have shared during an in-person meeting. This presentation has three essential purposes. Number one, to explain EPA's recommended cleanup plan for contaminated materials throughout the site. Number two, to summarize other alternatives considered. And number three, to solicit public comments on the proposed cleanup plan. This video replaces the in-person public meeting usually held to comply with EPA's Superfund law. The transcript of this presentation is available on EPA's Sandoval Zinc website at the web address shown on this slide. EPA is interested in your comments on the proposed cleanup plan for the Sandoval Zinc site. Comments will be accepted in four ways. You may submit a comment by using the comment form on EPA's webpage at www.epa.gov/superfund/Sandoval-Zinc. You may submit a written comment to Heriberto Leon, EPA's Community Involvement Coordinator for the site, via email at leon.heriberto@epa.gov. You may submit a written comment by mail to the U.S. EPA Region 5, attention Heriberto Leon, 77 West Jackson Boulevard, mail code RE-19J, Chicago, Illinois, 60604-3590. Or you may leave a verbal comment by voicemail at 312-886-6662. Comments must be received or postmarked within the 30-day comment period, which runs from January 3rd to February 2nd, 2022, to be part of the official public record. After the comment period, EPA will prepare a record of decision announcing its final cleanup decision. Your statements and comments are important to the agency's decision-making process and will be given full consideration. They will be addressed in a responsive summary that will be included in the record of decision. This slide shows location of the Sandoval Zinc site. The former smelter property is adjacent to the eastern boundary of the village of Sandoval in west central Marion County, Illinois. It is about 60 miles east of St. Louis, Missouri. The black lines on this slide show the boundaries of the Sandoval Zinc site, and the dark pink line shows the village of Sandoval boundary. The former smelter property can be seen adjacent to the east side of the village of Sandoval. The boundary of the village portion of the site can be seen in relation to the village boundary. EPA investigated the contamination at the site and believes that the source is processed waste from the former smelter property, which have elevated concentrations of metals. At the former smelter property and adjacent properties, elevated concentrations of metals are found in the soil and groundwater. Within the village of Sandoval, EPA found elevated levels of lead, arsenic, and zinc in soil. EPA detected lead up to 5,382 milligrams per kilogram. EPA believes that the main way village properties became impacted was by contaminated material from the former smelter property being used to fill areas within properties. Village groundwater has not yet been sampled, so EPA does not know yet if it is impacted. EPA needs to take action at this site because site contamination poses unacceptable risks. Within the village, EPA detected lead in soil with concentrations exceeding 400 milligrams per kilogram, the current residential cleanup level. Those risks come from ingestion and direct contact with lead-contaminated soil. At the former smelter property, lead and other metals pose an unacceptable risk. Also at the former smelter property, consumption of groundwater contaminated with metals poses an unacceptable risk. As stated previously, village groundwater, which is not currently used as a source of drinking water, has not yet been investigated. The village gets its water from Lake Carlisle via Centralia. EPA has established the following cleanup goals for the site. Number one, prevent the ingestion or contact with contaminated soil. Number two, prevent the spread of contaminated soil either through wind-blown spread site-wide or erosion and runoff at the former smelter property. Number three, prevent contamination from further impacting groundwater. And number four, prevent ingestion of contaminated groundwater. EPA considered four cleanup alternatives for the site. Alternative one is a no-action alternative which is used whenever EPA proposes a cleanup plan to establish a baseline for comparison to the other alternatives. Alternative 2 consists of excavating and consolidating all contaminated materials in an on-site containment cell at the former smelter property. The exception would be that EPA would excavate and transport off-site for treatment and disposal all contaminated soils from the village of Sandoval that are classified as hazardous waste. Alternative 3 includes excavation and off-site disposal of all contaminated materials from both the village and the former smelter property, regardless of whether they are characterized as hazardous waste. And finally, Alternative 4 consists of excavation and on-site consolidation of former smelter property contaminated materials, but off-site disposal of all Village of Sandoval soils. EPA is required by law to consider 9 evaluation criteria when evaluating cleanup options. The first 2 criteria must be met by a cleanup option. Number 1, the cleanup must protect human health and the environment. Number 2, the cleanup must comply with federal and state laws. The remaining criteria are used to compare the relative advantages and disadvantages of the cleanup options. Number 3, the long-term effectiveness of the cleanup. Number 4, whether the cleanup uses treatment to reduce the toxicity, movement, or amount of pollution. Number 5, the short-term effectiveness of the cleanup while it is being implemented. Number 6, the implementability of the cleanup, both technically and administratively. Number 7, the overall cost of the cleanup. Number 8, state acceptance of the cleanup, in this case, acceptance by the state of Illinois. And number 9, community acceptance of the cleanup. EPA's recommended cleanup option for the Sandoval Zinc site is Alternative 2, which includes excavation of soils from the village properties to a maximum depth of 2 feet. Visual barriers such as orange snow fences would be installed on top of any contamination remaining at depths greater than 2 feet. EPA's recommended cleanup plan also includes backfilling and restoring excavated areas at village properties. Where contamination remains in place at depth, land use restrictions will be put in place to prohibit future digging into any contaminated soil. Non-hazardous soils excavated from the village would be consolidated in an on-site containment cell at the former smelter property. Hazardous soils from the village would be sent off-site for treatment and disposal. At the former smelter property and adjacent areas, EPA's recommended cleanup plan includes the excavation and consolidation of contaminated materials into a containment cell. Groundwater use restrictions would be put in place to restrict the use of contaminated groundwater, and EPA would assist Illinois EPA in the state's implementation of a groundwater management zone at the site. EPA would also monitor groundwater to verify that the remedy is effectively preventing contamination from seeping into groundwater. EPA's recommended cleanup plan addresses the contaminated soils at both the village and the former smelter property. It does so using an interim residential cleanup number of 400 milligrams per kilogram. The cleanup number for residential properties may change in the future if EPA revises its national lead policy. The proposed remedy also restricts groundwater use at the former smelter property. Site-wide groundwater will be addressed later, after EPA investigates village groundwater to see if it has been impacted by contamination from the former smelter property. EPA estimates that the design and the cleanup of the site, which will overlap, will take approximately 7 years. Design of the remedy, including all the sampling that needs to be done, should take about 4 years, and the actual cleanup should take about 5 years. The estimated cost of the cleanup is $52.4 million. What are the next steps? First, we invite you to send us your comments on the proposed cleanup plan. After the comment period ends on February 2, 2022, EPA will evaluate all the public comments and will prepare its written response to comments, which will be included in a final decision document called a Record of Decision. After that, EPA will start the sampling and design work that must be completed before the cleanup gets implemented. For more information about the proposed cleanup plan, please visit EPA's webpage at www.epa.gov/superfund/Sandoval-Zinc, or you may contact me, Michael Burkhoff, EPA's Remedial Project Manager, via email at burkhoff.michael@epa.gov. You may also review documents related to the site and the proposed cleanup at the Sandoval Branch Library, 118 East Commercial Avenue, Sandoval, Illinois. As a reminder, EPA is interested in your comments on the proposed cleanup plan for the Sandoval Zinc site. Comments will be accepted in 4 ways. You may submit a comment by using the comment form on EPA's webpage. You may submit a written comment to EPA's Community Involvement Coordinator, Heriberto Leon, via email at leon.heriberto epa.gov. You may submit a written comment by mail to U.S. EPA Region 5, Attention Heriberto Leon, 77 West Jackson Boulevard, mail code RE-19J, Chicago, Illinois 60604-3590, or you may leave a verbal comment by voicemail at 312-886-6662. Comments must be received or postmarked within the 30-day public comment period, which runs from January 3rd to February 2nd, 2022, to be part of the official public record. Thank you for your interest in the proposed cleanup plan for the Sandoval Zinc Superfund site. We look forward to your comments.